it reminds me of a joke that my dad told me one time. Or I guess it's not a joke. It's a guy that he worked with. This happened to him. Um, him and his wife went fishing. Um, Drove their van way out to this lake, and they went fishing. But the van got stuck in the mud. So he's trying to get the van out of the mud, and it's just not working out. So he tells her to go sit in the back to try to put more weight on that back axle. So she goes back there and sits, and he goes, "All right, make yourself real heavy." And she goes,
That's
"So do
also
you do
something
something like that when you try to make yourself real small?"
exactly just squeeze up like this. That's something like you tell your kid, and your kid would make themselves heavy, and they'd believe it too. So, Blaine, is that what you did? Made yourself real heavy? Made yourself real strong? Yeah, exactly.
Tried.
That's the advice you have to give everybody. And then wait for the videos.
I don't know if everyone else has this problem at weigh-ins, but it happened both at the Arnold and the Denver bench meet that I did a few weeks ago. I don't know if I just can't stay steady on the scale, but it seems like it takes like 45 seconds for the scale to stop.
Yeah.
And I really don't care because at my body weight, like a few fractions of a pound don't matter for my Wilks. So I just wish they would like take the highest estimate, but they're like steady, 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 and they won't let me stop until like the scale stops.
Well,
I
at
think
least
it's
there's
just
not
the
like
higher limits.
at least there's not like some lightweights behind you that have been starving for 48 hours, Like, oh no, I'm gonna
So
die if
Blaine,
I don't get
you
rid
don't
of
spit
this
into a
weight.
cup. You're not cutting.
Yeah,
I
man,
know
all these
that.
Nope.
questions they ask you about making weight for competitions.
Is that what we should just talk about the whole time?
Probably. I consider myself an expert on the subject.
Right.
On
No,
weight, yeah.
obviously we do want to talk about your Arnold performance, which was. Why don't you give us the quick recap of what numbers you hit and I don't know, just whatever you were thinking at the time.
Okay. So are we rolling now? Are we live?
Yeah, we started going with my joke. I thought my joke was a good intro, so.
I agree. I thought it was a great intro.
Right.
All right. So my plan going into the Arnold was honestly just to kind of win some of the prize money. Nice healthy 1500 is always pretty cool. But it being an international meet, there's always the chance to set world records. So it's kind of cool to have the opportunity to set world records without having to um, jockey for placing or watch what anyone else is doing. So my number one goal, far ahead of everything else, was just try to get my lifts in and win the money. And then I guess secondary goal was going up and seeing if it was there that day to go for a big number. At 937 in the squat, which is probably the lightest I've opened at a squat in gear in like 8 years or something. I was able to get to depth and training with that suit and that weight, so it just opened there. It felt good, so I jumped up to 1047, and that felt good. And then went for the 500 kilo 1102 number, and got it. And so when I saw the white lights on that, that was for sure the highlight of my lifting career. I was super, super pumped about that because I'd been chasing that number for a while. And to finally get it and to get it passed and everything was felt
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Well, just to kind of give you some. See, I know that you squatted 500 kilos, but you were probably wondering what I was doing at the time. So I can fill you in on all
That was in the
that.
back of my mind. What's Mike doing in the warm-up room there?
I know, right? Well, I was standing at the doorway to get into the main hall, which was absolutely packed. You couldn't even get into the doorway. Like, it was either, I think it was Chad who was trying to to angle around the doorway so he could watch your lift. He was so far back that he couldn't see it. Like he's holding up his cell phone and like watching on the cell phone screen. But yeah, I mean it was incredible to be there. And one question that I've got for you about that squat in particular, can you breathe? like when you walk it out and you're like getting set and everything, can you actually breathe?
So I take one big breath of air before I unrack the bar, and then once I'm set up, once I take my 2 steps back and I'm waiting for the start command, I try and get as much air as I can.
Yeah.
Let some out and then take as much as I can before it's starting to go down. So, no, I can't breathe. I'm just trying to hold my breath, I guess.
Just trying not to pass out. Well, yeah, I can relate to that in a small way, I suppose. But so then from there, you went on to the bench, and you decided to open raw, right? Which I thought was a brilliant move, by the way. I was like, I mean, I know at a meet, like I'm like, man, I don't want to, tell Blaine his business or anything, but I really hope he opens raw. It's just because I know that shirts can be touchy, But I don't know, you're way ahead of me on that one. So anyway, take it away, bud. What happened on the bench?
Yeah, obviously the decision to open raw just to lock in the squat record.
Yeah.
My shirted bench training has been pretty consistent, but I probably wouldn't be here talking to you right now if I had bombed out on the bench. That squat didn't count. So just opened raw at 474. Ran. We kept one of the benches loaded in the warm-up room with 717, which is my last bench warm-up. So ran into the back real quick, threw the shirt on, took 717 down to, I don't know, probably a board and a half height or something like that. And then went out and did 827 as my second attempt, which was going to be my opener. So took it on the second attempt. Had a horrendously hard time touching, and got it locked, pressed it up. It was kind of ugly. I didn't have, I had uneven lockout, but not the bar dip. So I think that was just a matter of having one rep at 717, way high from touching, and not having the shirt set. So made a big jump from there up to 885. Or so the 827 was the 3-lift bench world record. And so decided to just swing for the fences and jump to 885, which was also the bench only world record. And it felt better than the 827. It was just easier to touch and had the shirt set.
Were you thinking about the total record at this point?
All I do is obsess about this stuff all day, so I had crunched like every possible scenario, and I knew that if I got the 1047 squat, that if I got the 1047 squat and had a great bench and great deadlift, that I could get it. So yes, it was always on my mind.
Yeah.
Once I got the 1100 squat and really the 827 bench, but especially the 885, I knew that it was.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, yeah, I mean, so you've got definitely other things that are driving your attempt selection for your squat and your bench this time around, but it's in the back of your mind. That's cool.
Yeah.
So, so then you moved on to the pull.
Yep.
By the way, before we
honestly,
move on, I just want to say that after every third attempt that you did, I mean, it's a good thing there were 3 flights, because it took you a full 15 minutes to get from the stage back to the warm-up room, and that's not because they were far away. It's because there were 500 people that were standing in line that wanted to shake your hand after every third attempt, which I thought was really cool.
It's like a reception line at a wedding or something.
Every time, man. So, like, there's a squat world record, a bench world record, and then a total world record. So every time, I mean, you shook 1,500 hands just between the stage and the warm-up room.
And I didn't even wash my hands, and I didn't get sick. Your mom lied to you about washing your hands.
So anyway, yeah. So we went on to the pool.
Yeah. Kind of funny. I had flip-flopped every week in training between sumo and conventional. And when the meet started, I didn't know what I was going to. Didn't know if I was going to pull sumo or conventional. Once I saw the deadlift, so my thought was if I was going to have to pull a ridiculous pull like 830 or 840 to get the world record total, I would have probably tried conventional because I feel like I have a bigger conventional pull in me, but it's not as consistent, if that makes any sense. So I saw that I needed to do, I think it was like 729 maybe for the world record total, and I just felt like I was more consistent at that weight sumo, so decided to pull sumo, and it was kind of interesting, and in the warm-up room started working up. We lowered my opener from 717 to 672, just to again play it safe.
Yeah.
My last warm-up was 606, and I actually fell forward with it or lost balance with it forward, where it's happened to me in meets before too. It just I'm not patient enough, and I just pull it off the floor, and once it starts getting close to lockout, the weight's too far in front of me, and I forward with it. So fell forward with the 606 last warm up. Said, yeah, I'm glad I'm fine. And at this point, I was just like, my heart was racing. I was like, if I lose this squat and lose this bench because I found out with a 672 deadlift, I should just not be a powerlifter anymore.
I don't know, but it's on your mind. Though. Like I know it's got to be on your mind. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, you're right. And maybe it was a good thing in all reality because usually that happens where I fall forward when I rush the deadlift too much. So maybe missing that 606 in the warm up room, I was like, okay, you need to simmer down here, just take it easy.
Yeah, it's an easy technical fix just to be patient.
Yeah. And if it didn't happen on that 606 and kind of slapped me in the face, maybe it would have happened on the opener, and then I wouldn't have got to do a big third deadlift attempt. So anyways, opened at the 672. It went really good. Jumped to 729 or 732. I don't remember the number, somewhere around there, and that broke the world record total. And I've been so we got the world record total on the second deadlift, and I've been kind of chasing.
I think we kind of lost Blaine a little bit.
It's frozen.
Okay.
Poke him.
It's a heck of a time to freeze up, but
I know. Well, it's dramatic.
All-time world record. I mean, highest total ever.
Right. Well, we'll be right back with a message from our sponsors. Right?
I guess we're never going to know what happens.
I know, right? Well, I'm sure he'll bounce back here pretty soon. But I mean, that is one thing that I thought was. Okay. So Blaine sent me a text. He said he'll be back on in a second. His internet messed up. So.
All right.
Yeah. So. I mean, that would make me super nervous, like you've got a world record to hold on to in the squat and the bench, but then you bobble a warm up in the deadlift, you know what it reminds me of, and of course this isn't what happened to Blaine at all, but it reminds me of some of the multiply guys back in the day who would squat, 1,000 or 1,100 or something, and then deadlift 600,
Right.
Now Blaine ended up pulling like 800, totally different story. But I don't know. It would definitely make me nervous to bobble one like that.
Well, any of that, especially if this has been something that's been on your mind, as Blaine said, he obsesses over this. It's not like he's casual, it's like, oh, maybe I'll set a world record, or don't tell me what the numbers on the bar are, coach.
Right.
That kind of thing. I think he knows exactly where he's at and exactly where the numbers are. And yeah, it's high on his mind.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's a really good thing though that it happened in the warm-up room in the last.
Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, no worries. No
Am I
worries.
back
We just
now?
figured we'd take a little commentary break while you were gone. Since we were waiting on the edge of our seats.
Yeah, my internet will. I'm sorry about that. It'll crap out sometimes.
No, that's all right. No big deal. So anyway, you were saying that you just made your second attempt pull and that locked in the world record total.
Yeah. So Dan Gaudreau, my coach, he wanted to put in that 805, 365 kilo number, 805 pounds, to get that monkey off my back. And I'd kind of known in the back of my mind that I went up a little bit. There's some bigger milestones that I could hit. So if we put in that 816, 70 kilo number, that gave me like a 2800, 2802 or 2803 pound total, and then also the highest Wilks, male or female. So I decided to skip the 365 kilo and jump to the 370 just because there was that 2,800 pound total number was.
Just because you're a boss like that. And you smoked it too. Like I did get a good view of that one and smoked the hell out of it. So that was really impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, so one thing that comes to mind here is just how engaged of a lifter you are in the back, and that's something that Paulie mentioned a few minutes ago. Is that you hear about a lot of guys who are like, I don't even want to know what the weight is on the bar, just put it on there. You seem to be like the total opposite of that. Like I thought I was a pretty engaged lifter, but I don't know what my total is until after the meet when I added it up. But like for you to be aware enough to know, like, oh no, I went 816 instead of 804. I don't know, man. That's pretty locked on. Does that sound about right? Does that sound about like your experience too?
Yeah, and I'm so obsessed with all this stuff that like I've crunched like every possible scenario of what if I hit this squat and this bench and this deadlift, and so I'm kind of cued to it the whole time.
Yeah. No, that's good, man. That's
So
I like it when I have lifters who are more like mentally with it. It I don't know. I feel like it makes a better balance overall.
it seems like you're more cued in, obviously, and it's almost like training where you're crunching the numbers, where you don't have to think about it anymore. Because you looked focused in the warm-up room, but you didn't look nervous. You didn't look like you were kind of wringing your hands and pacing back and forth. You had your spot. You were just kind of chilling, just as much as you can when you're setting multiple world records. But you're focused, but calm, the way that I think a lifter should be.
Yeah, it looked like you thought it all out well ahead of time. You weren't. I agree with Paulie, and which my question would be, how far out are you really running all these scenarios through your head? How far out from the meet or this meet?
Every single day, whether like before I go to bed or sitting there drinking a shake, or I finished with my training one night and I was like, dang, my squats didn't feel good. Okay, if I hit this squat, what bench do I need? What deadlift do I need to hit this total? It's like every day in my training cycle.
Yeah,
that's a big thing I've noticed too. Is it's you got the physical strength training part, but there's a huge mental focus part involved as well. I think outside of the gym all the time. Would you comment on that?
Yeah, I guess I'm just pretty obsessive about the sport, really, and I try to do all the small things right. Like I have to work a normal job outside of this, But even when I'm there, I gotta have like my shake breaks, and there's like during lunch break, I think back to what I did in training last night, and I was like, oh, my deadlift didn't feel very good. What if I do this squat and this bench? And
Yeah.
it's always on my mind constantly.
Once upon a time, this was back in my collegiate days. I made a flow chart that's like all those scenarios. Well, like if I squat this on my first attempt, then I want to do this, and then if I make it, then this. If I miss it, then this. Like all these scenarios. And it ended up being, I don't know, about that much paper. And I sent that to my handler, like here, this is what you need to coach me. Maybe a bit overkill. I've definitely streamlined that process over the years.
Yeah.
Blaine, the back of your wall looks pretty blank there. I'd expect to see a bunch of sticky notes with all the different numbers on it, and have your whole room look like a beautiful mind or something with thread and
like yarn connecting different pictures and stuff like that.
just keeping track of every other powerlifter in the world that's in close contention. Time travel.
The key is in here somewhere. I know.
Exactly.
So Adam,
Yeah, you guys
couldn't be here today. What's that?
Well, I said you guys look way smarter with your.
Oh no!
Oh man, missed the punchline.
I know. This is as dramatic as the lifting.
Well, at least he's not frozen this time.
Am I still there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're still there.
Bill, he was commenting on my white wall space, and I said, "You guys look way smarter with your books in the background."
You got to watch Pauly because, well, yeah, it's still there. Pauly's got an action figure in the background on his, and
Bruce Lee.
Yeah, he puts Easter eggs in his. Yeah.
Do you see all these these plastic containers back here?
Yeah.
There's stuff in the way, but there's 9 of them full of powerlifting junk that I play with every day.
Yeah, I see it. Is that a bench shirt that I see right there in front?
There is.
And how come you're not wearing gear right now while we're talking?
I have suit bottoms on.
Okay.
Adam wanted me to ask you if you still have the 1102 bruise on your back.
I think there's just a perma bruise there from squatting in general.
Yeah.
I can't see it anyways. I can't see my headphones either,
So Blaine, what do you have coming out? You're doing nationals, obviously, right? In about a month and a half, is it now?
It's May 22nd, so
okay,
2 months.
2 months. And so, what do you do for your training for that?
Same as what I did for this meet and the past couple meets. One thing that I'm changing, my deadlifts to me are the thing that's been most inconsistent, or I'm leaving the most on the platform type deal. And so what I've been doing in my training, I pull in the suit once a week, and it's singles. And I've been alternating 1 week sumo, 1 week conventional, 1 week sumo, 1 week conventional. So whatever I pull if I pull sumo in the suit that week, then I pull conventional raw that week. But one thing I'm changing up for this cycle is I'm pulling in the suit twice a week, singles. So I'll do 1 day sumo and 1 day conventional in the suit. Just because I'm still feel out of touch with what I'm better at, and I need to practice some more, so that's how I'm going to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense, though. And like we talked the other day, like I don't think the deadlift suit's going to help that much, so it's not like it's a totally different thing and you're completely ignoring your raw pull, even if you are throwing a suit on. It's not going to be a total neglecting of your regular deadlifting.
Yeah.
I did get a chance to read most of your book. I'm not quite finished with it yet. It hasn't been out that long. Um, but I had some questions I was hoping to get a chance to ask you. One is that um, you seem like you do a lot of heavy singles in your training, um, at least more than like traditional powerlifting training kind of espouse. And I was wondering, is that mostly like for the gear, um, or is it something that you think is beneficial for your raw lifting too?
It's for sure mostly for the gear. The singles are definitely for the gear. It's in my opinion, if you're using the gear right, you should only be able to do a single in it, with maybe the exception of the deadlifts. But if you're using the squat suit and knee wraps right and the bench right, you shouldn't be able to do a double or a triple with a weight that you can get to depth with or
Yeah.
touch with. So that's where that came from. When I've done raw cycles like this, uh, you know, I'm still in the gear all the time. But if I was going to just focus on raw for a year or so, I would still train the same way, except instead of doing the heavy singles in gear, I would probably do like triples for 4 weeks and then doubles for 4 weeks and then maybe singles for 4 weeks, but not really not going above 90, maybe 93, 4%.
Cool. Yeah. So, all right, that answers that. I was also kind of wondering if you would advise lifters of all levels to do the singles, but I mean, if it's mostly a gear thing, then I mean, it probably makes sense. Like even a novice needs to get used to the equipment and stuff if they're competing in an equip meet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, a question that Jim asked me to relay to you with regard to your training now, like how did you get here? Like how is this where you ended up? You know, like what sort of training did you do early on that kind of evolved into this?
Okay. I will first start my answer by saying this was not a planted question or answer. Um, so I first started out training like a football player, like a normal football player in America does, and then I got into the more classical Western or linear style of training, where I had a squat day, a bench day, and a deadlift day, and it was all linear progression. Um, and then it was 2012. I wanted to get into doing some higher frequency stuff, and I looked into like some Chico and programs like that. But I got in contact with Mike, and he offered to coach me for as long as I wanted. And so it was about a year, and that's what absolutely. And again, I swear this is not a planted question. I've told everybody. That's what absolutely like opened my eyes and completely changed the way that I thought about training and the way that I trained, because I think, especially growing up in the U.S., there's this really bad misconception that squatting and deadlifting are so taxing and draining, and you can only once a week. And so when I first started, it was like hard to kind of break this stereotype that, oh, you can squat and deadlift and bench 3-4 times a week. And once I got into the groove of how Mike was training me, it took about 4 or 5 weeks, and I felt like death those first couple weeks, and then I kind of hit my stride. But there's so many pros to how he was doing it. Like I got so much better at all the lifts because I was doing them so much more. I had always felt like I was one of those lifters who, I hit big numbers in training, but they were kind of sloppy lifts, and then go to a meet and don't do quite as well. But now that you train with a higher frequency, you get way better at all the lifts. You're not training all the heavy lifts in a 100% recovered state all the time. So I did that with Mike for about a year, and then just emailing with him is what completely like changed my. I went from being a really really stupid young dumb lifter to being a much less stupid and dumb lifter. And so that, anyways, to how that evolved to where I am now. Something that I've liked all through my training was kind of that linear style of progression, because mentally for me, it's really simple. It's really easy. I can do a set of 8 this week, and then 7, and then 6, and spend a couple weeks at 5s. And I focus so much on the numbers that I'm doing, the weight, that it's mentally easy for me to, you know, to linear progress like that over a training cycle.
Well, one builds into
Um,
the next too, And I know we've had some. This would be another thing that we should talk about in a minute, but um, I know that your mentality, even when training, is a lot more fired up, than I tend to be. Um, so it kind of makes sense too to use that as a governor. Like I don't see you as a guy who's going to take 70% for a whole bunch of easy triples. You know, um, I think you'd much rather take 70%. If you got to work with 70%, then screw it. We're going to knock out one death set of 10, and you know, and that's just kind of we've talked in the past about how training has to match up with your mentality. And I think that's one thing that you've obviously done very well for yourself as far as matching those things up. And and that you're right that it's one of the huge benefits of like a linear periodization style is that it's logical. Well, I did 8s last week, so let's add a little bit more weight on the bar and do 7 this week. And one leads to the next, and so on.
yep, exactly.
Yeah. I had another question for you, and I guess it kind of relates back to that about mentality. You and I have had some interesting discussions uh, on mentality when training, mentality when competing. I don't know. Do you want to share any of your philosophy on that sort of thing?
Yeah. So back when we were having all these conversations, and I would always think back to, like, when did I get the strongest that I've ever been? And I can think to a very distinct part in my life, and that was it was up until about June 2012, where we had the first Classic Worlds. And up to that point in my life, I was squatting once a week, and every single day that I would go into squat, I mean literally every single day, I could get so amped up and so much adrenaline. Like, if I had hair on my back, it would be standing up, and just get goosebumps all over my body, and just like the biggest adrenaline rush ever. And it was like a weekly thing that I could go in and I could just flip the switch, turn on the right music, and it was kind of from, I don't know, from 2009 to 2012 maybe. It was really dumb how my squats would increase, because I could hit like a heavy triple one week, go in the next week and want to do 10 pounds more.
Oh no, did we lose him again?
Yes.
He's frozen this time.
Yeah.
Another commercial break.
Yeah, man. Um, but yeah, I just kind of I'll wait for him to finish his story when he gets back. But um, yeah, I mean, it's just a really interesting thing, and Blaine and I had some cool conversations, just kind of about that when he was working with me, about how if you're more like that type of lifter where you're getting really amped up, the training has to reflect that. And Mark, that's one thing that I probably didn't do as good of a job when you and I first started working together, which was way back in the beginning. Um, but you were more of that type of lifter in the beginning too, where you would get really amped up in training, and we probably didn't take that into account as much then as we do now. Um, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on this? Like, how has your mentality changed over the years?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it definitely, the training has to match for sure the attitude or mentality, and I think Blaine's back.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
I'm,
Mark was just kind of filling us in a little bit. So I was saying when Mark was first starting out, that he tended to be a little bit more uh, like you are, where he would get really fired up, and he was just kind of filling us in on how his mentality's changed over the years. Go ahead, Mark.
I think I don't know. I think it's kind of more of I mean, that's for me. That's the status quo. That's my personality, and it's probably the same with Blaine. So I just have to try to tone it down a little bit, you know, to reduce the overall stress levels when I feel like it's appropriate. Now, if I'm trying to really, you know, if there's numbers I really want to hit that day, then yeah, I'm going to get a little amped up, even if I don't, you know, go wild and bang my head on the bar and stuff like that. It's still kind of well enough, you know, inside. So I don't think that's something you can do away with. And you know, I know the strategies that you know, we've talked about this before. The strategies that say maybe you favor or Adam favors or I favor or whatever, sort of reflect that, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I think it definitely reflects personality, and to some extent, you're right. There's nothing that can be done about that, you know. So it's easier to try to get the training in line with the lifter's personality than tell the lifter that they need to change who they are, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So Blaine, do you want to finish from where you left off?
Sure. So it was able to get huge adrenaline rushes every time I'd go into squat. And then in 2012 at the first Classic Worlds, I tore my hip labrum. Um, and really from that point on, I felt like I kind of lost my squat mojo and that adrenaline. And that same adrenaline rush, when I could get it on squats, I could never get it on bench or deadlift. And I mean, there was a few years there where my squat probably went up 100 pounds and my bench went up maybe 20 and my deadlift maybe went up 20. And so I knew 100% deep down inside of me it was due to those adrenaline rushes I could get in training. And so since then, I've kind of
a high level for the squat, but it's just not something you could reproduce for the bench and deadlift.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's where I made the best gains of my life. I don't know if that answered the question or not.
Yeah. Well, is that something that you're still like? Is that a direction that you're still trying to go in, or have you kind of changed your views on that, or?
I haven't changed my views on it, and I still for sure want to go in that direction. But
Yeah.
it was kind of weird when I tore my hip labrum there. I've never been able to push my raw squats like I have, and as much as I try to get like a huge adrenaline rush in training, I can't get it like I could a few years ago. And I don't know if it's an age thing too or what, but I still chase it, and maybe I get it once every 6 weeks or something like that. I'll just, like feel super amped up for a set, but not like I used to where I could get it every week.
Speaking of an age thing, what's your training age now?
Is that how long I've been training for?
Yeah.
Um, my my post-pubescent training age, where I've been a smart training adult, aka being done with Mike, um, two or 3 years. But I've been
No,
lifting.
I mean, like, how long have you been lifting weights, like, with the intention of trying to get strong?
Since I was a freshman in high school, really. So 2002.
Okay.
So
Still, that's not as long as I thought it would be.
yeah. So
Oh.
2000. Let's see. 14 years.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's not like just yesterday or anything. So I don't feel too bad about myself.
You almost did.
I almost did, yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, math in public will do that to you sometimes. But let's see. I want to think of what else I wanted to ask you. Um, yeah. So what's you've done raw lifting and equipped lifting. What's your favorite?
Right now, I would for sure say that it's the equip lifting.
Yeah. Is that because the raw lifting is painful, or just because you like the equipment?
There's a couple reasons. So when I tore my hip labrum in 2012, I was for sure more of a raw lifter at that point. and I mean, there was like 2 years where I couldn't squat pain-free raw, but I could throw the suit on and my hip would be 100% fine. I don't know if it was because I was squatting 3 inches high or not, but the my hip felt way better in the suit. Um, so that's one reason, and then another reason is, everybody has like a strength ceiling,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying I've got to mine, but the closer you get to it, the harder it is to make improvements and get stronger. And the equipment adds a whole nother variable for you to move more weight. You can get better. You can get better in the equipment and improve your technique in the equipment. So, I think most of us all get into the sport to chase bigger numbers, and that's what drives us is lifting more than I used to lift. And so it just adds another variable to help you you can get better at and therefore move more weight on the platform.
It does add an interesting dynamic to it. It's another variable. Um, my background was in equipped lifting in the beginning, and then I moved more to raw lifting now. I was glad to ditch that variable because it's easier to see like if my training was actually working or if my equipment fit a little bit better or something like that. It was a little bit more clear for me with raw lifting, but I definitely see the appeal. Um, you know that it adds something else to manage. And I mean, let's be honest. To get really strong, to get really good at lifting weights, you've got to do it for a long time, and after a while, like you said, the gains slow down and you're kind of grinding away. And for a lot of people, yeah, putting on some equipment adds a different dimension to it that helps it stay interesting. Um, yeah, something else for you to mess with and see improvements in your results.
Hmm.
So yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah, Mark probably can't, but
Not yet. We're
listen,
we're working on Mark. We're trying
we're
to
working on
Blaine. Tell Mark to put his shirt on. He's being very resistant, but
it. Look at that
he,
grumpy look he's giving you now. So,
yeah, that's fine. That's a look he always gives me.
I've
But
got one thing that'll hit you, Mark.
yeah,
Yeah, I bet. I might be able to fit in the sleeve.
like your head fits in the sleeve. But no, we've been working on Mark a little bit just to just for a little bit of kind of a different direction for a minute. Try it out, see how you do. I mean, everybody wants to. A lot of raw lifters want to know, like, what kind of carryover do you have from lifting in gear for a while? So you're talking about your strength ceiling, and do you feel like that's going to push your raw strength ceiling up a little bit more, just from, say, doing, like, if you came back to do a cycle raw or raw competition, how do you think you'd do in that?
Yeah, I think the gear for sure helps in an overload sense, um, but I don't think it's one of those things that, at least for me, some people are different with the gear. My technique in the squat and the bench press for sure is much different raw versus equipped. Um, so it is kind of a trade-off. I'm handling more weight for sure, but like in the shirted bench, I can't do the same thing raw in terms of bringing it low and doing things that I'm doing. Um, so there's not like a direct carryover, if this is making any sense.
yeah.
Um, uh, but it for sure it complicates the training, and sometimes I think about like, oh, if I had to do a raw meet or focus on raw for a year, my training would be much simpler. So I wouldn't say the gear is
Oh man, his timing is impeccable.
I know, right?
oh, wait, am I here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
you're
here.
here.
That's sweet. Okay. Um,
You
I
wouldn't
would
say
say if a
gear
raw lifter was wanting to do overload work to go jump in gear. I don't think it would help in that regard.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I kind of have felt the same way. Like if you're a raw lifter and overload is valuable up to a point. You know. Uh, yeah, like handling those super maximal loads can be valuable up to a point. I don't think that you necessarily need a bench shirt to do it or a squat suit to do it. There's maybe some more simple ways to get that effect without the complexity that some of the equipment adds. But
100% agree.
yeah, I mean, I think that the slingshot has been really helpful in that regard because it gives you a boost without being complicated to use. Um, yeah, I mean, we've used knee wraps in a similar way on the squat. It's not quite as effective as a slingshot is, but I mean, there's plenty of tools like bands and chains and weight releasers and all kinds of fun stuff that you can mess with if you're looking for something like that. Plus, it doesn't lead to all the bruising that that equipped lifting can. I wish Adam was here now because we could poke fun at him about his first time in a bench shirt.
Yeah, he was so sad for a couple days. He was so bruised up.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like that gets to be a feeling just like like most lifters after you've been doing this for a while, you've kind of grown to where you appreciate the feeling of soreness that you get after a particularly good workout. I think for equipped lifters, the bruising raw skin is kind of the same thing. You kind of grow to appreciate it after a while.
There's something like perverse about that somehow. Slightly perverse.
it's a badge. I mean, I think it's a mark that you've done work, and it separates you from most of the people out there. Like, look at these weird bruises. I mean,
Yeah, like the little bruise across your back, Blaine was referring to.
right.
Right.
Or the bruises on the backs of your arms, or wherever it is. I mean, there's some deep stuff there, or even calluses on the front of your knees. People have knee calluses, and
That might
most people don't get that.
Yeah,
I got that.
Well, so Polly was asking you about what's next for you. You're going to men's nationals, so it'll be in May. That's close to me here in Aurora, in Denver. So I'll get to see you and hang out with you then, maybe.
Cool.
But also, we wanted to mention real quick your book, which I've mentioned earlier that I'm most of the way through reading, which I thought was super interesting, by the way. There's a lot of insight on like stuff that has shaped you as a lifter from the early days, and then of course like plenty of programs and plenty of hardcore training information, that people tend to crave. So, I mean, I've enjoyed it so far. I'll probably finish it this week. Where can people get your book?
It is available at the Juggernaut store. So if you go to the Juggernaut Training Systems website and you go to the store, it'll be on there under Guerrilla Warfare is the name of it.
Yeah. Excellent title, by the way. I enjoyed that as well. But yeah, so I think that's all the questions I've had for you. I know we've probably taken way longer than we normally do, way more time than we planned on taking, but I appreciate you hanging out with us. Hopefully we'll be able to have you on again and talk about some more big lifts and stuff like that. So it's been really enjoyable, Blaine. See you next time.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
See you.